Hello, today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2025, right? June 23rd. I think it's June 24th, right? Tomorrow is my payday, and also is the anniversary of Korean Civil War between North Korea and South Korea back in 1950, right? It lasted for 3 years, and many people died. And the American forces, along with other UN forces, like the Philippine from military from Mexico, Philippines, South Africa, Canada, they all helped out us, and we appreciate that. But that's a long time ago, right? So it's a sad day, and also it marks the division between North and South Korea permanently. But it's my payday, right? So one day after, I get paid. No bonus for this month. And also, we have a strong partnership with Palantir Technologies. And let's find out what Palantir Technologies can offer to the Korean customers, right? Korean corporate customers. I work for Korea Telecom KT, the number one AI company in Korea, and also number one CSP and the telecom carriers in Korea. If you do want to have a business in Korea, you always contact me first. I will set you up with a voice, data, internet needs, and also cloud needs, and also all the SMS messaging, mobile service needs. You can come to me, and I'll give you a free consultation as a KT corporate consultant. Right? We offer a free consultation. We let you know how to set up the services and the price structures, the contracts, and all those stuff that you need to square things out. This article is from seekingalpha.com. Never heard of the company, but looks like a very good, right? Probably stock related company, right? Alpha stocks. The title is Palantir Technologies, Understanding Its Immense Potential. This article was prepared on 2021. Palantir Technologies Inc. PLTR stock. Follow. Summary. As the world becomes increasingly digital and connected, we generate increasingly more amounts of data. Palantir gives organizations the tools to integrate and analyze vast scopes of data. The company's unique business makes it a potentially lucrative long-term opportunity for patient investors. The world is rapidly changing. As connectivity increases, we produce potentially large amounts of data. We have begun to see both businesses and governments grapple for control of this data. Palantir Technologies Nasdaq PLTR is a unique business that is able to give organizations the ability to integrate with, analyze, and learn from data in a way that hasn't yet been possible. Palantir's business is somewhat difficult to understand due to secrecy and complexity. But today we will unravel the company to identify the long-term investment thesis that investors should be considering. Company background. Palantir is a software development and services company. The company was founded in 2003 by a group of individuals, including Peter Thiel, who was Facebook's first outside investor. Palantir got off the ground by working with the U.S. intelligence community as its first clients. Wow, that's good information. But this expression also attracts my attention. Palantir got off the ground by by working with the U.S. intelligence community as its first clients. While Palantir remains heavily involved with work for the U.S. government, Palantir has expanded its business to lesser levels of government, including state, local, international governments, and the private sector. The company continues to rapidly grow and currently does roughly $1 billion in annual revenues. Now it's more, yesterday we learned that it's like $100 billion, $200 billion. So it expanded huge. Data is the oil of the 21st century. Before I talk about what Palantir actually does, I want to lay some framework by talking about big data as a whole. Advancements in society are often gradual, with the exception of the occasional catalyst that sparks a revolution. We saw this in the late 1850s when the discovery of crude oil set off a chain reaction of innovation that empowered the development and the modern economy throughout the 1900s. Even in recent years, oil has remained a core resource for the global population. Wars have been fought over oil. Starting in the 1940s, similarly important discovery was made with the electronic computer. In 1990, the Internet was developed, which was the catalyst that launched the digital age. Digital evolution step by step, right? Okay, that's good information. The explosion of connectivity over the past decade or so has rapidly expanded the depth and the rate at which data is created. Once upon a time, data was physical. Files stored in cabinets, spreadsheets saved on hard drives. Then the iPhone was launched right around the same time that social media started taking off, and cloud services were becoming a thing. This trio of events kicked off the emergence of what we see today. Individuals are constantly connected and mobile. Today, a smartphone is a basic tool in the development societies around the world, and we create a ton of data. Everything from texts, emails, social media posts, etc. is all data that comes in many form factors and is constantly expanding because it's created over time. As time passes, we simply create more data points. This data grows exponentially. With the rise of cloud, mobility, IoT, social, and analytics, the data explosion is accelerating, right? Unstructured data. With the continued advancements of technology, including artificial intelligence, governments and businesses alike are now seeking out how to use that data in a way that is beneficial. When Palantir was founded in the early 2000s, I think the company was a bit ahead of its time. Perhaps that is why the concept was met with so much skepticism. Exactly. I didn't like big data. I didn't like AI until recently, right? The US government is one of the most advanced organizations in existence. Well, at least the intelligence community. So it makes sense that Palantir found its footing with the government agencies first, right? That's another good expression. Palantir found its footing with the government agencies first. But But now that the private sector has caught up, this idea of big data has become mainstream. And the companies that work in that space are seeing more opportunities for applications. I didn't invent the comparison, but I agree with it. Data is the oil of the 21st century. It's not hard to see this happening around us. You have fewer missile attacks and bombings and more cyber attacks between sparring countries. Palantir found its footing with government agencies first. Social media companies are being increasingly scrutinized over the data they collect, and the countries that have access to that data read up on the TikTok dilemma. As an investor, there is opportunity for long-term growth in finding the right companies that sit on the front edge of innovation in the data space. Some of these areas may include artificial intelligence, edge computing, or data analytics. In the case of Palantir, I believe Palantir is a unique business in what it does. So what does Palantir do? Introducing Palantir. Palantir provides the tools for human-driven analysis of vast amounts of real-world data. So imagine all of the data an organization may create: emails, video, images, spreadsheets, etc. All of these formats are diverse, fragmented, and constantly increasing in scale. What Palantir does is essentially takes all of this data and formats it via its platforms into a single language, right? So data here is actually plural, but is considered as uncountable noun. So that's why they use this instead of these, right? This data and formats it via its platforms into a single language. Then that data is integrated and managed in a way that users can analyze it with assistance of machine learning. Imagine having every picture, social media post, text, and email you've ever sent taken and analyzed for patterns and tendencies. This data could probably reveal information about you that you never realized was possible to find out without you telling someone directly. All of this is based on the data that you create day in and day out. Having this type of vision and ability to manipulate data that way is incredibly powerful and explains a lot of how Palantir gained traction with the US government. It's been rumored even that Palantir's system played a critical role in locating the hideout of terrorist Osama bin Laden. Palantir has two primary platforms, Gotham and Foundry. It's been rumored even that Palantir's system played a crucial role in locating the hideout of terrorist Osama bin Laden. Okay, it makes sense because Palantir has huge technology platform, but their company was formed in 2003, and Osama bin Laden was killed like in 2009. Okay, so it makes sense. Palantir has two primary platforms, Gotham and Foundry. Okay, so they have two platforms, Gotham and Foundry. Palantir's Gotham platform primarily serves government applications. Approximately 56% of Palantir's tool revenues are driven by government customers. I highly recommend you check out this demonstration of Palantir's Gotham platform. Source YouTube. Also, I wanted to highlight another use case from Palantir that does a good job outlining the Gotham platform in action. In September 2018, Hurricane Florence devastated North and South Carolina in the United States. The storm was responsible for thousands of displacements, over 1 million power outages, and an estimated $17 billion in damage. To help victims remove felled trees from their properties, muck out flooded houses, and tarp damaged roofs, military veteran volunteer corps Team Rubicon deployed 1,000 volunteers and Palantir Gotham, right? Muck out flooded houses, tarp damaged roofs. Team Rubicon used the Palantir Gotham's operations module so the National Operations Center and field teams could collaborate on planning and executing 6 executive operations. They combined publicly available flood data with weather information and social vulnerability census data to find the communities in greatest need. In the field, Team Rubicon Instant Command and volunteers used the data to manage operations, from triaging incoming help requests to dispatching assessment and work teams, and producing shareable daily metrics and reports. With the Palantir Gotham, Team Rubicon used the data to marshal resources faster to those most in need. To those most in need. That's another good expression. To those most in need. Rubicon, right? Gotham and Foundry. Rubicon. Interesting. So triage, right? They used the triage. They did the triage using Palantir, so that resources faster, marshal. Use the data to marshal resources faster to those most in need. To marshal resources faster to those most in need. Palantir's other platform is Foundry. Foundry is typically used by private enterprises, so Gotham and Foundry. Commercial customers make up the other 44% of Palantir's total revenue. The Foundry platform seeks to accomplish the same goal for its users, integrating diverse data sets at massive scale to provide actionable insights. Some interesting use cases for Palantir's Foundry platform can be found here. Lastly, Palantir lists Apollo as its third main business product. So Gotham, Foundry, Apollo, right? Probably Apollo came out recently. Apollo is a standalone continuous delivery platform that manages and deploys Foundry and Gotham across multiple cloud structures. Yes, Apollo is a standalone continuous delivery platform that manages and deploys a Foundry and Gotham across multiple cloud structures. Collectively, these 3 platforms make up Palantir. Interesting. Apollo, right? So here's Apollo sits in the middle. On the left is continuous delivery, automated upgrades, automated configuration, a monitor from a single pane of glass. Apollo. Foundry, Gotham, SaaS. Gotham and Gotham, right? Single, virtual, connected on-prem appliances. Disconnected operations. Connected on-prem appliance, right? Apollo. Because we built Apollo as a standalone platform, we've since extended it to power both Foundry and Gotham. Apollo automatically delivers platform upgrades without any user downtime or human intervention, regardless of environment. Interesting. Because of the nature of the business and who they work with, Palantir is an incredibly secretive organization that operates a complex business. However, I think these use cases and our discussion thus far paints a fairly complete picture of what Palantir is. Sticky business with room to grow. When it comes to Palantir's business and its growth trajectory, there are a handful of characteristics about the business that I like a lot. First, the business is incredibly sticky. In other words, once Palantir has its claws into a customer, it becomes increasingly difficult to switch. Palantir's software can be described as what is often called being mission critical. It impacts the core function of the customer's business operations. Once Palantir is integrated into how an organization operates, it would be severely disruptive to the customer's organization to replace Palantir's software. The uniqueness of what Palantir does at scale only reinforces this. Right? The uniqueness of what Palantir does at scale only reinforces this. Getting more specific, Palantir's long-term relationship with various layers of government makes it difficult for existing and future competitors to displace Palantir. Long contract terms, relationships with deep ties, and deep-rooted implementation are tremendous hurdles for challengers. Long contract terms, relationships with deep ties, and deep-rooted implementation are tremendous hurdles for challengers. Why do you think the same small handful of companies have been supplying submarines, jets, and weapon systems to the military for decades? Think of Palantir as the software version of Lockheed Martin. Palantir is a business-to-business B2B and business-to-government B2G company. B2B and B2G. Thus, its target markets are quite substantial. There are various layers of government, including federal, state, and local, as well as international governments for Palantir to penetrate over time. In the private sector, Palantir has a lot of room to expand as well. The company's total customer count remains low at less than 200. Wow, that's significantly less. Number of customers are generating more than $1 million, $5 million, $10 million in revenue. That's the table. Increasing, right? Palantir Technologies. To gain a sense of the room that Palantir has for expansion, let's look at the private sector where Palantir does business with just a fraction of the world's largest companies, including just 8 of the Fortune 100, 12 of the Global 100, 24 of the Global 300. On the flip side, this means that Palantir is highly concentrated. Much of the company's revenue comes from a small portion of important government contracts. Also, the company's top 20 customers contribute more than 60% of total sales. On the flip side, there's another expression, right? On the flip side. On the other hand, right? On the other side of the coin. On one hand, this could be considered a risk for the company. The loss of the top 20 customers would make a noticeable dent in the company's revenues. However, I see it as a sign that there is much room for growth. The company is in the early stages of assembling a sales team, hiring its first formal salesperson in 2019. I don't see why investments into sales efforts wouldn't bear fruit. Right? Would bear fruit. On the flip side, on one hand, Palantir's path to this growth will depend on simultaneous expansion of its client base while growing revenue per user. As of now, there are positive signs of this. Among Palantir's customer demographic, the company's number of high-dollar customers are growing the fastest. Among Palantir's customer demographic, right? Among Palantir's customer demographic, as a result, average revenue per user has grown from $5.6 million in 2019 to $7.9 million in 2020. Perhaps the wild card that Palantir has for driving growth over the long term is innovation. We can see from the use cases how flexible the platform is. It can be applied to nearly any industry where data is collected and stored. As Palantir develops new technologies, these will enhance existing use cases. And as antiquated industries become more digital and modernized, it will grow the addressable market for Palantir. One key observation I've made for a business such as Palantir is that the ride to growth over the long term will be bumpy at times. The company is projecting 30% or more growth in 2021, yet is projecting 4 times its 2020 revenue in 5 years. Palantir's growth will likely be lumpy and come in spurts as it signs new contracts over time. Comes in spurts, right? That's another good expression. Palantir's growth will likely be lumpy and come in spurts as it signs new contracts over time. Palantir's growth will likely be lumpy and comes in spurts, right? Comes in spurts. Palantir's growth will likely be lumpy and comes in spurts. The company might have a soft quarter and then land a massive deal that takes revenue up a notch. The company might have a soft quarter and then land a massive deal that takes revenue up a notch. The company might have a soft quarter, then it will then land a massive deal that takes revenue up a notch. The company might have a soft quarter, then land a massive deal that notches revenue that takes revenue up a notch. This isn't customer goods business where you can model a smooth long-term growth curve. This is important to keep in mind. The market is short-sighted, and we saw the stock get punished for its growth forecast for 21st. I push for everyone to think long-term, but I think that Palantir is truly a business that you can buy stock in if you intend to leave them alone and let them work out over time. Interesting. Looking at profitability. The largest stock I've seen on Palantir is the company's lack of profitability. Despite being in business since the early 2000s, 2003 to be exact, The company has never turned a profit. Really? That's bullshit, right? They just do the work without any profit? The company has never turned a profit. The company has never turned a profit. The company has never turned a profit. While every company needs to eventually turn a profit, and Palantir has gone a long time without doing so, I am not currently worried about this with Palantir. Let's look at this breakout of operating expenses as a percentage of total revenue over the trailing 24 months. Right? So revenue, cost of revenue, gross profit, operating expenses, total operating expenses, loss from operations, loss before provision, benefit for income taxes, provision, benefit for income taxes, net loss, interest outcome, interest income, interest expense, change in the fair value of warrants, other income expense yet, operating expenses, sales and marketing, research and development, general and administrative. So total operating expenses increasing, right? Decreasing, staying a lot, staying average. The company's gross profit margin is comfortably above 70%. As a software company, Palantir benefits from a non-capital intensive business model. Software businesses are typically able to scale well, and profitability accelerates rapidly once critical mass is reached, where revenue growth surpasses the growth of expenses. We also need, right? Software businesses are typically able to scale well, and profitability accelerates rapidly once critical mass is reached, where revenue growth surpasses the growth of expenses. We also need to keep in mind that in 2020, expenses were a bit inflated due to stock-based compensation related to the company's direct stock listing. Moving forward, investors should look for a trend towards profitability as revenue growth continues. The company is likely to see an uptick in marketing expenses due to its early-stage sales efforts. Just 3% of employee headcount is sales related to date. The company is likely to see an uptick in marketing expenses due to its early-stage sales efforts. Right? Another good expression. The company is likely to see an uptick in the marketing expenses due to its early-stage sales effort. And R&D will remain a major expense because of the nature of the business model. Palantir is not only innovating, but work goes into customizing applications for clients with Gotham and Foundry. We will want to see profitability over the long term, obviously, but investors need to understand the big picture. Tesla was another company that went many years operating at a loss, and the stock flew once that threshold was reached. Threshold was reached. Tesla is a much more capital-intensive business, so I think Palantir will have a much easier time reaching profitability in the coming years. It's much more capital-intensive business, right? Tesla was another company that went many years operating at a loss, right? The stock flew once that threshold was reached. Tesla was another company that went many years operating at a loss. And the stock flew once that threshold was reached. Stock has fallen to attractive valuation. It's one thing to find a quality business, but sometimes the timeliness of when you acquire the stock can make a huge difference in your total returns. Put another way, valuation always matters, just less so for growth stocks over the long term. We are fortunate to be looking at Palantir on the heels of a market-wide correction among growth stocks. Once trading at a high of $45 per share, Palantir has corrected more than 50% and is at levels similar to what was seen in the fall. The current state of shares places Palantir at a $36 billion market cap. This results in the approximate forward 24 by EV to sales multiple. This may seem expensive at face value, but a long-term perspective tells a different story, IMO, in my opinion. If Palantir achieves its 2024 5 target of $4 billion in revenues, the current multiple will more than burn off over the coming years, even if there is some degree of multiple compression due to shifts in the market. A 24 by multiple on 2025 sales puts Palantir at a $100 billion market cap in 4 years. But I think that is likely on the conservative end. Big data is such a huge space and is still in the early innings of how data will be used by governments, businesses, and institutions in the years ahead. As a unique model in such an important space, Palantir's long-term ceiling could be higher than most realize. Risks to be aware of. No investment is risk-free, so it's important that we talk about some risks that investors must be mindful of. Palantir generates a significant amount of revenue from its top customers. While I detailed why I am not personally worried about customer concentration, it is a risk factor because a disruption to these business relationships could be catastrophic to Palantir's operating results. Secondly, Palantir may need to continue to ramping up spending on sales and marketing to drive growth in the private sector. Given that the company has been in business for a number of business and has yet to reach profitability, investors need to be mindful of Palantir's spending. If cash burn accelerates for a prolonged period, it may be appropriate to reconsider investment thesis. Cash burn, right? Cash burn, right? Market cap. Yeah, I've heard of market cap many times. I thought the total amount is called a market cap. So market cap. Finally, wrapping up. Great growth investments can be found when an investor identifies a unique, disruptive business model that is operating in a large and growing space. The world's shift to digital has exploded the amount of data that we generate. Data has become the critical resource of modern times, where governments grapple for access and control of it, and businesses seek to learn from data and unlock new levels of insight and performance. Palantir's ability to give both the tools and platform to accomplish these make Palantir a potentially wonderful long-term opportunity. Wealth Insights. So this article is really good. It was prepared in 2021, 4 years ago, but its prediction was almost correct, 100% correct. Before I go, I would like to go over what I marked to remember, right? Market cap, cash burn. Tesla was another company that went many years operating at a loss, and the stock flew once that threshold was reached. The company is likely to see an uptick in marketing expenses due to its early stage sales efforts. Just 3% of company headcount is sales related to date. The company has never turned a profit. That's that. Palantir's growth will likely be lumpy and come in spurts. As it signs new contracts over time. The company might have a soft quarter and then land a massive deal that takes revenue up a notch. Palantir's growth, right? Among Palantir's customer demographic, Palantir's customer demographic, on the flip side, use the data to marshal resources faster to those most in need. Use the data to marshal resources faster to those in need. Palantir found its footing with government agencies first. Between sparring countries, Iran and Israel, Iran versus United States, between sparring countries. Palantir got off the ground by working with the U.S. intelligence community as its first clients. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. Take care and have a wonderful Tuesday. Bye-bye.